Okay, so when you start the dashboard, it should be very clean. There should not be, if you see the parts, there should not be anything, and stateful sets, deployments, services, everything should be clean. Okay, so for this, what you have to do, you have to run the first command minikube minikube delete hyphen purge. Okay, next minikube start, next minikube dashboard. So when you enter this minikube dashboard, what it will do, it will provide you the link, and it will open the browser and it will show you the dashboard. Okay, so services, if you see, there should be only kubernetes service that is running. Okay, now let us move on to my deployment. Okay, so generally we have two type of applications. One is stateful and stateless. Any idea what is stateful and what is stateless? Anyone have idea what is the stateful and what is stateless kind of applications? There are in general two type of applications. So one is stateless application and another one is stateful application. So what is stateless application and what is stateful application is, say for example, if you restart your service and data is no need to be saved. For example, your backend service, backend application. Okay, say for example, if you are running your backend application or front-end application, now say if you have a new release, if you have a, consider if you are consider you have a backend or front-end application. If you have latest changes or version available. Okay, so if you have a latest version available, what you will do, you will upgrade the version, in Kubernetes deployment file. Okay, so in your Kubernetes deployment file, if you see here, so deployment backend and deployment front end, if you see, here, we will be providing the image details. So repo slash your artifact and the version. Generally we will not use latest. We'll use 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, etc. 1.1, 2.1, 1.2, 1.3, like that. We'll provide the versions. Generally we will not provide latest. Okay, we will not use latest. We generally use versions 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, etc. Okay, say for example, if there are some changes in your backend and if you have to deploy the latest version, say we will get the version from the Docker Hub and we'll upgrade the version inside my deployment file, and we'll deploy this image. Now what happens, it will pull the latest image and it will run. Okay, it will pull the latest image and it will run your Kubernetes. Okay, now the problem is when you restart your deployment, what will happen? The service or pod will be restarted. Okay, when you upgrade the version in Kubernetes deployment file and try to deploy, so what it will do? It will delete existing pod and create new pod. So what happens in this case, your old data, if saved any, if your old data is there, that will be cleared off. Cleared off. This is called stateless application. So your front end and back end application, no need to store any data. Okay, so your front end or back end application, what it will do, whenever you have a new version, okay, whenever you have a new version in your service, either front end or back end, now what you will do, you will upgrade the version inside your deployment file. And when you try to deploy this, what it will do, it will delete the existing part and it will create a new part. Your old data will be cleared off. So this is called stateless application. Now consider the similar case. Consider the similar case in case of database. In case of database, if I make any changes and if data is lost, if I make any changes, maybe deleted the pod or restarted the pod, or if I created another new instance of a pod, so we should not have any data loss, right, in a database, because a database is not a static data, it is dynamic data. Every time the data will be upgraded, read, insert, update, CRUD operations will be performing. So in that case, we should not have a data loss inside this case. So this is called stateful application, means it has to maintain a state, means old data should be preserved. Whenever you make any changes to your pod, it should not clear out any data, any existing data, it should not be cleared off, it should be existing. Okay, so this is called stateful application. So your database is not a stateless application, it is a stateful application. Okay, now how I will differentiate the deployments? So this is explained. So what is stateful and what is stateless? So everyone clear? Any questions here? So what is stateful and stateless is, if you maintain state of data, means old data is preserved, it is not lost, that is called stateful application. If the data is lost, that means old data is cleared off. Whenever you delete a pod, whenever you restart a pod, that old data is cleared off, that is called stateless application. Examples is your backend application and the front end application. Now say for example, if it is a database application, it should not delete any existing data, it should be preserving the old data, that is called stateful application. So I am clear what is stateful application and what is stateless application. Are you clear, everyone? Everyone clear? Please respond. You can respond in the chat. Okay, so that is about stateless and stateful application. Now how I can differentiate while deploying to my kubernetes, how I can differentiate between my deployment. I should say that there is a stateful application, you have to deploy it stateful. This is stateless application, I have to deploy stateless application. So for stateless, we use deployment file, and for stateful, we use stateful set file. Okay. Now if you see my latest repo, I have created two files. One is mariadb service and another one mariadb stateful set. If I open, okay, this one, let me keep it and let me open. This. So here if you see, this is my backend application, this is my backend application LMS BE deployment file. So here it is a type of deployment file, but if you see here mariadb, it is a kind of stateful set. Okay, so this differentiator, so this one deployment file will be considered as a stateless application. whereas stateful set, if I provide, it will be considered as a stateful set. That is the difference. Only difference is here the kind is deployment file, here the kind is stateful set. Okay, so this is my name. Okay, so I am giving service name. So I created both the service and stateful set inside this one only. So replicas. So what is replicas? How many instances of your application to run? So for now I have given only one. Due to space constraint, I have given only one replica, means one instance of my application to be running, and I have given the service name as mariadb. Okay, now the important thing you have to consider is the spec. Okay, the important thing you have to consider is spec. Now I have to, first one is image, means when I run this stateful set, which image I have to load, now how to know? I have to go to my Docker hub. Inside my Docker hub, inside Docker desktop, I can search for mariadb. If I search for mariadb, I will get this one. Okay, so if you see the pull, sorry, if you see here, for each kind of version, for each kind of device, you have the different versions available. You can check whichever image you want. So Linux or AMD x64, so ARM64, you can get them. So if you see here, this is the tag mariadb. Okay, this is the this is the what is that artifact, and you can specify the versions, or what you can do, you can just give latest. So what it will do, it will fetch the latest version and it will give. Okay, now when you create mariadb, so what we are doing, we want to create some dummy database. Okay, so this is my image. Okay, containers, name and image. Image is nothing but from which Docker hub repo I have to fetch. So mariadb latest. Now next what I have to do, I have to provide the environment. So what is the environment here? I want to mention that I want to create a database. When I create my application, when I run this stateful application, I want to create one dummy database. So what I have given, mariadb environment variables. These are environment variables. How to pass this environment variables? Like this. So mariadb underscore database, I am giving the name as mariadb. Next, root password, means by default mariadb have the user as the root. Okay, username is root. Password I can give. So how I can give is mariadb underscore root underscore password, value I will give pass. Next, port, on which port I have to run, 3306. The default port is 3306. Okay, so where I have to install this, where lib mysql, or I can give maria. So I can give where I want to store this application, where I want to mount this application, mariadb -data where lib. So like say, whenever you create this database, tables, everything will be there, right? The data will be stored inside your where lib mariadb. Okay, so any questions here? So containers, first thing is name, image. So this image is nothing but the Docker hub repo from which you have to download. Next, when you run your application, what is the default database you want to create? mariadb. Next, what is the root password? I have given just a pass. Okay, generally will not give password directly inside my deployment files. We'll be using secrets and all. For now, I just hard coded as value equal to pass. Okay, now this container port is mentioned to give the run this database on port number 3306. Next, so every database will have something called persistence volume capacity, or PVC. So what is this persistence volume capacity is? See here, this is a fixed data. Okay, this is a fixed data. Okay, so when you are creating this database, we need to allocate some space to it, right? Otherwise, what will happen, you cannot store the data. Okay, so this is a persistence data, means it has to store some data. So what is this persistence volume capacity, PVC? Okay, persistence volume, sorry, not capacity, sorry, it is not capacity, it is claim. Persistence volume claim, so it is used for mentioning. So this is used for allocating memory to store data. So PVC provides information like how much memory is needed. So since for our application it is a simple one, I have given storage 1 GB. Okay, 1 gigabytes. 1 gigabytes of memory is sufficient for my application to run right now. But later on, when you are going for production and all, it may be 10 GB or etc. Whatever GB your application is needed, you can give. For now, I have given 1 GB of memory. Okay, so this is my stateful set. So what is stateful set? So it mentions that this application, whatever you are deploying, is a stateful, means it is going to be permanent. The data is going to be permanent. It is not going to be deleted whenever you restart pod or delete pod or create a new pod. So it will be fixed. So here spec, what I will provide the image which one to deploy. Next, what is the mariadb database? Means when you create this database, create a default database, that is mariadb with password. Whatever password I provided here, with this password it will provide you the details. Okay, now what is volume claim templates? So what is volume claim? Your data is getting to store inside your varlib mariadb. Now how much memory is need to be allocated for this one? For that I will provide the persistence volume claim, PVC. So persistence volume claim, what I will provide? So access modes, read write. Okay, I need to access it, read write. Okay, so I have to read the data, also I have to write the data. So I am providing that operation. Next, how much memory? 1 GB of memory is need to be allocated. Clear? And we'll need a service file. So service file is to include like the port number, because external port will be different, 30,000 to 35,000 I told, right? So external port will be different. So for that, what I will do, I will port number, default port, I will map it to some node port. Okay, default port 3306 is used for running your database, but what is the actual port it is allocated is 32760. Okay, so what I have done is I have created 3 applications. One is database, backend and front end. So database will be running on port number 32760, backend will be running on 32761, and front end will be running on 32762. So I have created 3 ports, 32760, 32761 and 32762 accordingly. So these are the ports I have allocated. Okay, now let us deploy. First, what you have to do, you have to deploy database. So command is kubectl apply -f mariadb deployment. First stateful set. Next, service. Okay, now let us see whether it is created or not. So mariadb headless is created. Let's go to the parts. A little bit slow. Okay, so container is creating. You can click on this to see the status. Okay, so up and running. So my mariadb is up and running, so I can see pod 1 and 1. So if you see here 1 and 1 means, so it is up and running. Okay, now how I can connect to my database? So cube ctl get svc. So see here mariadb headless services running. So I have to minikube service check. So see here minikube IP is this one and is running on 32760. Okay, now what I have to do, I have to port forward. I have to give the port forward to access it outside. So let me go there. Okay, now let's come down. I have provided the command in this one, so you can use. So when I right click enter, sorry, there is a space mismatch. Okay, oh okay, because 3306 was installed in my machine, right? So local machine, let me uninstall. Because in my local it is already mapped, right? That is why it is coming. So let me uninstall. See, when I uninstalled, it is running because my local machine I already installed and I have mapped that port, right? So we cannot map the same port again to that same port ID. So my this one is connected. Okay. Now let me go to my dbeaver. Let me connect to my mariadb database. that is deployed on the Kubernetes. So let me delete this because this is no longer available. So let me create a new connection, mariadb. Okay, now it is localhost. If you see there, 1270.0.1, so 3306, my application, my Kubernetes database is working on 1270.0.1. So let me give 127.0.0.1 3306. So database, so what is the database? mariadb. mariadb is the database. So root and password is pass. So let me test connection. So connection is established. So this is my Kubernetes related database. Okay, so tables are not created. Why? Because my service is not applied. That is why my tables are not created. Okay, now let us deploy the service, backend service. Now let us deploy the backend service. So cube ctl dep apply -f deployment -be. Similarly fe, similarly service. So I am deploying both front end and back end service as well. Okay, now let me go to the dashboard. Let me go to the parts. So RCT app, backend app. Let us see the logs. So container is still creating. Okay, so tables are created. Now let us see whether it is created or not. Okay, tables are created. Okay, data is inserted. Good. Okay, now let us see the let us go back, go to the parts. So React is still creating. So my DB is up, my backend is up, I'm waiting for my React. Okay, my React is also up. Now let me port forward my React app. Okay, let me connect to my database. Localhost 5173. Login. Okay, so view books. Okay, I am able to get the data. Now let us change something. I'll give 10, 20, 30, 40. Okay, database is saved. Now let me refresh books. 10, 20, 30, 40. Okay, so like this we'll be able to connect to my database. My backend application is up and running and my React app is running. Okay, now how this how this backend service is connecting to my database, how this backend database is connecting, sorry, my backend application is running and connecting to my database is src main resources. Let me first copy this. Let me open a terminal. Git stash. Okay, see my application or properties file, my latest one, my latest code. See here, I am giving minikube IP, minikube IP, minikube IP, and the port number whatever I have created. So I already told you that my ports are running like this: database 32760, backend 32761, frontend 32762. Okay, so what I have done in my application properties file, I am giving minikube IP. This is my minikube IP. So how to get minikube IP? I can get it using command minikube IP. Okay, 192.168.49.2. So you can give this minikube IP followed by the node port whatever we have provided 32760, and this mariadb I have provided in the deployment file. If you see the deployment file, I have created the mariadb database, that is mariadb, and mariadb password as pass. Okay, so this mariadb is the database. Next pass is the password, and a username is root. By default the user is root. Okay, so when I provided this and create a image, when I create a image and apply, then I am able to connect to my database and able to make a connection to my database and get the data. Clear? Any questions so far? So this covers our training on the Kubernetes. So here we have created a deployed backend service, we have deployed a front-end service, and we created a stateful database application. Okay, so the stateful database application I have created on the Kubernetes, and we have deployed in the Kubernetes, and we have made a connection between your mariadb database and your Spring Boot application using the application properties minikube IP followed by your port number.